The difference is an E2 is a non-immigrant visa and an EB5 for 500,000 is an immigrant visa. That is the difference, which means it's a green card. The E2 at the moment, God knows why, does not have a direct path to a green card. The lobby has been going on for as long as we've been practicing, for sure, but it's still not there. Maybe the pressure now will change that, maybe, because there's so much demand. So maybe that will change. But at the moment, that's the circumstance. Yes, high demand is an understatement, really. I mean, I've never had so many inquiries and questions, and it's just an amazing thing what's going on. Absolutely. Because Florida's open. I mean, let's not talk politics, right? It's open. First of all, it's warm. I'm not dealing with 0 or -4. I'm dealing with right now, it's 23 or 24 Celsius outside. It's beautiful and sunny, and people are done. They're just done with being stuck at home. And when you go outside freezing and shoveling snow to go nowhere, it's a tough thing right now, what's going on, for sure. It's definitely a lifestyle choice. Nowadays, I think it's a lifestyle must. And so, and you know, Florida is appealing. It's always been appealing to Canadians, but now it's even more appealing. And don't get me wrong, we don't just work with Florida, because I'm also a realtor as well as a lawyer. And we work, I have 48 referral agreements out there right now for people that are looking for real estate around the country. But at any given time, Florida is always going to be the #1 demand because it's an obvious place to come. So there's a big difference between, first of all, owning real estate for your personal purposes or for vacation use or whatever, owning 1 or 2 rental properties, investment properties, and being a significant real estate investor that has a real estate business. And it's only the latter that's going to potentially qualify for an E2. Your investment has to be at risk. Well, in real estate, it's not really at risk, is it? So you have to have that much higher of a threshold in real estate. You have to do property management. You have to run multifamily. You have to actually run a business and hire people in order to potentially use real estate to qualify. And my superpower is really in transitioning from, I own 1 or 2, rental properties, to I'm a real estate investor and I have a real estate investment business. I do property management and I'm getting an E2 visa. It's not, there's not a fine line. It's not a hard and fast rule like EB5, which has specific numbers and specific employees. It's all about looking at the individuals and their business and how their business can manifest into an E2. You know, it's not 1 5-plex or 2 10-plexes. It's about what is the return, are the needs, are they turnkey, do they need work, is it rehab, is it the BRRRR method, buy, rent, renovate, refinance, repeat. Like, how does that work? So that's where the real estate component comes in. And obviously being a realtor helps to kind of pave that path in a different way. But that's not the only way. Certainly it's an unusual way, but a lot of people want to own real estate. So it's a great way, but you name the business industry and there's a possibility of finding a visa option with it, especially with the E2. Way too many people are playing lawyer these days and I have an E2, so I must be an expert at E2. No. And indeed, there's a whole other option that needs to be addressed, especially for the Canadians that are desperate to get out. Because unfortunately, as a Canadian, I feel, believe me, I empathize, because I would probably want to leave too and be frustrated myself. Lots of L1 opportunities. If you qualify for an L1, the beauty is you can potentially get a green card. What might also work, especially if you're here in the US or you want to be in the US, or you're just done and you want to come or whatever, is get an E2, and after a year in E2 status, so you could just do the 2-year E2, and after a year, if you have enough, a substantial enough business in Canada and the US, which we know that somebody near and dear to our hearts did this, and do an EB1C, which is an a multinational executive. And that's available if you have, it doesn't have to be the same business, it just has to be common ownership and meet certain requirements. So, you can do that too, or you can also go into L1, not new office L1 status after that first year as well, because you no longer have a new office. So there are options. E2 is not the only option. I just think if E2 is available, take advantage of that option. So
Right.
because with the TN visa, which I actually had several of them, it's a year. So at the time when I had TN visas, I didn't have a family. It was just me. When you have a family and you're moving, not only do you only have a year, but you're subject to the discretion of your employer. So, I'm always going to recommend that you have a little more control with an E2, and your spouse gets a derivative visa and can work for anybody. So why not go that route, as long as you can afford it and you can find a good business, which we will help with. Part of why I like franchises, because if a client invests in a franchise, then they have the opportunity, we will negotiate this through my franchise colleague to get what's called an E2 visa contingency built into the franchise document. So why is that good? Well, when you're buying a franchise, you're spending whatever, 100,000, let's say. That's always the rule of thumb number, right? And instead you put a deposit and the rest of the money goes into escrow as long as you have this visa contingency. And then the only way that the money comes out of escrow and that the purchase closes is when and if you get the visa. So most successful franchises that are, decent brands that are used to working with E2 clients will build this in. And I will not that I won't allow, but I certainly won't advise my clients to go for a franchise without it. So that's a big advantage. It's never going to happen if you're buying an existing business, because who's going to wait? If they're selling their business, they want the money now. So now a lot of people say, oh, well, with franchises, we have to pay all these other fees and we have to do this. You know what? At the end of the day, it's worth it, because when you're coming from another country, one thing to really be aware of, no matter if it's, Canada to the US, I've done it, it's not an easy transition. It's hard. There's a lot of things. Even I still learn stuff. Banking, completely different. So many things are just different here. And we take it for granted in Canada. Oh, we're just like the US. Well, now maybe polarization has changed that. But, when I did it, I didn't really realize how significantly different it is to live in the US. And the rules here are different, the regs, everything. So franchises, I like them when you're moving your family, you've got enough to deal with. If you have a franchise, somebody else has your back along with you. And I feel that that's so important. A turnkey business can give you that leg up. You may not be able to have as much freedom, but at the end of the day, you'll have a lot of support that you wouldn't otherwise have. I would just say that if you're thinking about it, don't think, because you have to act, because the rules are likely to change and we don't know when. So I have a 5-bedroom home. I couldn't afford a 5-bedroom home in Toronto. I don't need a 5-bedroom home, but this house would be about 4 times the price in anywhere in the GTA. I think overall the cost of living is lower. Everything is relative, because if you have a job, generally you earn less money, but as an entrepreneur, there's huge opportunity. And think about it, if you've never been an entrepreneur before, here's your chance. Take advantage of it. Live the American dream. I came down here as a lawyer, not an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur because I couldn't find the right place for myself, and I haven't looked back. Incentives. Well, sunshine, getting a social security number, being able to build credit, having freedom, having the opportunity to be an entrepreneur. Everybody stay warm, and I look forward to hopefully connecting with you and helping you, and thank you. Bye for now.